we are going to work on writing systems of equations from word problems. So I also call this using systems of equations to solve. So we're going to have word problems. What we need to do for each word problem is we need to define the two variables that we're using as well as the two equations that we would use to solve the problem. So remember that a system of equations is when we have two equations, at least two, and we are trying to find a common solution, the solution that works for the x and the y for both equations. All right, so first up, Kayla and her children went into a restaurant. She bought $63 worth of hot dogs and tacos. Each hot dog was $3.50. Each taco was $4. She bought 3 more hot dogs than tacos. So write a system of equations that could be used to determine the number of hot dogs and the number of tacos that Kayla bought. All right, so first thing that we need to do is decide. You can use whatever variables you want, all right? I'm going to use H for hot dogs and T for tacos. Now, the reason why I know that's what I'm needing to find is it says determine the number of hot dogs and the number of tacos. So I'm going to have H be the number of hot dogs and T is going to be the number of tacos. Now, I know that these other options are not what I want because I'm looking right here and it tells me what the question is. Determine the number of hot dogs and the number of tacos. So I know that that's what my variables are representing. All right, so now I need to write the two equations. So one thing you need to keep in mind is that an equation needs to have equivalent numbers in it all the way through. What I mean by that is when I look at this problem, I see some numbers that are in dollars and I have some that, or at least one, I guess, where it's just saying she bought 3 more than the other. So what that means is that I need to put all of the dollars in the same equation. So my first equation I'm going to say is that if we spend $3.50 for hot dogs plus $4 for each taco, we will spend $63. So all these values in this first equation are all dollar values. All right, now the next equation. She bought 3 more hot dogs than tacos. So let's think about it. She has more hot dogs than tacos. So I'm going to say that her hot dogs would be her tacos plus 3 because she has 3 more hot dogs than tacos. So now I have my two equations. Now, on these problems, I'm not being asked to solve, but at this point, you could solve by elimination, you could solve by substitution. It's set up nicely for substitution. My guess would be you probably wouldn't choose graphing, but that is the third option that you'd have. All right, so if we submit this, we get to just double check. Yes, and we have it right. And again, just to reinforce this, you can choose any letters. So it's set, if you want to choose X and Y every single time, that's not a problem. All right, let's try a new question. Okay, Leah and Christopher work at a dry cleaner's ironing shirts. Leah can iron 25 shirts per hour. Christopher can iron 15 shirts per hour. Leah and Christopher worked a total combined 13 hours and ironed 625 shirts. So write a system of equations that could be used to determine the number of hours Leah worked and the number of hours Christopher worked. All right, so I can tell right here, determine the number of hours that they worked. So that's what I'm looking for right here. So I need to figure out the number of hours Leah worked, and I need to figure out the number of hours Christopher worked. That's how I know what my variables are representing. All right. For this one, we can just use X and Y. All right. So we know that Leah can iron 25 shirts per hour. Christopher can iron 15 shirts per hour. They worked for 13 hours and they iron 265 shirts. So again, I have to put in the first equation, every value that's in this equation has to be the same unit. So first I'm going to look at the amount of ironing. So Leah can iron 25 shirts every hour. And Christopher can iron 15 shirts every hour. And in total, that's 265 shirts, because the 25 and the 15 and the 265 are all the same unit. That's all referring to the number of shirts that they can iron. All right, now the next piece of information that we know is that Leah and Christopher worked a combined 13 hours. That means in total they worked 13 hours. So if I take the number of hours Leah worked, which is X, plus the number of hours that Christopher worked, it should equal 13. So at this point, you could use elimination, you could use substitution, you could graph, which I couldn't imagine you doing. But for this, we're just working on setting it up right now. So submit, yes, and we got it. All right, let's try one more. Okay. Alexa is a songwriter who collects royalties on her songs whenever they're played in a commercial or a video. She'll earn $20 every time one of her songs is played in a commercial and $110 every time one of her songs is played in a movie. She earned a total of $340 on 8 commercials and movies. So write a system of equations that can be used to determine the number of commercials and the number of movies. So that's telling me right there what my variables need to be. So I'm going to, for this one, say C is going to be the number of commercials, and M is going to be the number of movies. And again, I know that that's what my variables are because that's what I'm having to give as the answer. I'm being asked to figure out how many commercials and how many movies. All right, so on to the equation. Again, the equations have to follow the same unit. So in here, we have money, and then we have the number of commercials. So I'm going to do money first. So every time a song is played in a commercial, she gets $20. So she gets $20 for every commercial. She also gets $110 every time one of her songs is played in a movie. And she made a total of $340. So the 20, the 110, and the 340 are all dollar values. So I know those are all going to go in the same equation. For the next equation, the only other information I know is that she had 8 commercials and movies. I don't know how many were commercials, I don't know how many were movies, but I know if I add together the number of commercials and the number of movies, she had a total of 8. Nice job. All right, hopefully that will get you somewhat started on how to set up your equations. Remember that you want to look at what you're being asked to find. This one was determine the number. It should be very clear what you're being asked to find. And that's how you know what your variables should be. Once you have your 2 variables, you're going to use the information in the word problem to write 2 equations. And again, the equations can't be a mixture of money and time. If one equation has money in it, then every number that's in that equation has to be dealing with money. All right, good luck. Let me know if you need any help.